welcome to another episode of GROWradio. I'm your host, Michelle McIsaac, and today I have a doozy for you. In fact, I have a feeling that this episode is going to be one that I send clients to refer back to because what I am about to share is that important. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make a very bold statement around a very unconventional opinion I have on what it means to collapse time, if you've ever heard of this phrase in business, where basically you're doing things faster than you thought you could. And then I'm going to break down my reasoning around why I feel the way that I do. And before I dive into that, I want to let you guys in on something that's happening on April 10th. The final live round of Tempo, the Art of Speeding Up, is kicking off. And this is my 6-week mentorship program all about the exact topic that I'm covering on this podcast episode and so much more around the art of selling, content marketing, offer development, establishing goals around what you actually desire in your business, establishing your identity as a leader, to name just a few. So if you're an entrepreneur in the online space and you want to create a strong foundation for your business while diversifying your income and identifying your own unique opportunities to collapse time, head over to michellemcisaac.com/tempo to check out all the details and join us on the 10th. All right, so let me start out this episode by sharing an unconventional opinion that I have on the highly coveted and anticipated skill of collapsing time in business. And then I'm going to start to break down my reasoning for why I believe this. Are you guys ready for this? To collapse time and to expand into the kind of places you never even thought perhaps were possible for you in your business, you're going to need to die first. In fact, I would even wager to say that you're going to need to die a lot of different times in a lot of different ways, over and over and over again. Was that what you were expecting? I'm guessing not. But let's get into what this really means, and specifically what it means about you as a leader and how you can tap into what I'm trying to say here. Because really, this all boils down to your identity in how you lead. Okay, so here's the thing. In business, it is far too easy to assume that the people who are succeeding in the online space have some sort of magic formula that we don't know about, right? Some sort of secret that people like you can't access, right? It's got to be hard for you, but they must know something I don't know, right? They make it look so easy. Well, what I've come to understand through my own personal experience of going from making, $500 a month in the beginning to a few $1,000s a month to then hitting my first 10K month and being like, what just happened? To eventually normalizing 5-figure months and 5-figure days eventually, with my highest paying single day in business being almost $40,000. The one thing that I've come to understand is that this could not be farther from the truth. In fact, when things start to change and we actually start to see real tangible proof that timelines are falling, and suddenly we're able to do in a day what we used to think would take us months, we come to this completely shocking reality that what we really needed all along was quite the opposite. The secret sauce isn't outside of you. See, in business, you have a lot of ideas and dreams, and you're going to create this and you're going to do that, and it's going to be amazing. It's just going to be this totally magical experience, because you're looking at the highlight reel of everybody else. But then time and time again, your ego is going to hit a whole big wall, like, wha-bam. Because as soon as you start to try to create that, you start to notice what other people are doing, and you start to think, okay, if this is what this person is doing and they're succeeding, I need to be more like this. And I need to create more things like this. And I need to turn into more of this kind of person. Because we equate what they are doing to success. And this is a huge mistake. We try to mimic their secret sauce, but that's not ever going to work. I mean, it might work for a little while, It certainly isn't sustainable, though, because it's not actually you. And I mean, this is just one example of this. I want to be clear, though, that I'm not saying that embodying the qualities of a leader is a bad thing. What I am saying is that a lot of the time people start to stray and they become distracted by, quote, the other, right? It can be anyone or anything outside of who we actually are, our truth. And the reality is we go chasing that thing, whether knowingly or unknowingly. We chase that thing in order to try to find, quote, success. But then in order to create a truly fruitful and sustainable body of work, because we don't want to just do it one month, we want to have consistency over every single month compounded over time, then we have to circle back and we have to come back into ourselves to find what we truly deem as success. because what I think is success may be completely different from what you think is success. So if you try to mimic me, it's not going to work. So listen, I want to be really clear that this is not always about a monetary win. I'm not saying this is all about hitting 10K months every single month, and that's the only way you can define success, and that's the only marker that things are changing and things are growing. There are people with very little in life. Like, I'm talking, they don't own shoes. They live in clay huts. They are always wondering what their next meal is, and they are truly, genuinely happy. They are living the embodiment of what their idea of success is. And there are also very wealthy people who live in mansions and own the fancy cars and have the closet full of every kind of clothes, and they have the Chanel bag and they go on all the lavish trips. But they are very poor. They're not living their idea of success. So what do you define as actual success? You've got to start figuring that out. Is it a monetary amount? Maybe. There's nothing wrong with that. Is it that, or is it something else? Is there more than one definition of success for you? Are there a couple of things that you would seek out? Is it a comfortable life? Is it a happy home? Is it having time with your kids where you don't have to constantly be stressing about work and, being a slave to the notifications on your phone? What do you define as success? You've got to start there. How do you want to feel in your business, in your life every day? You start there, because in order to tap into that and collapse the timeline between where you are now and where you want to go, you need to know where you're going. You can't get to your destination without getting clear on your starting point and your ending point. The GPS isn't going to work without the 2 points put in. And the same goes for creating your life's work. Okay, so let's dig another layer deeper here. Your inner shadows. I'm talking things like fear, doubt, insecurity, uncertainty, indecision, perfectionism, etc. These shadows will always meet you along the path to self-leadership, right? In self-leadership. You don't get to skip this part. In fact, you may meet them more than once. You may meet them hundreds of times. And I'm not saying that the journey of growing and building a business has to be this horrible, painful, never-ending, troubling process. But what I'm saying is that there are good feeling emotions that will come up, and there are also not so good feeling emotions that will inevitably come up as you lead yourself. Leading yourself means being the inner child, but also being the inner loving parent for what that inner child is asking for you to see. This is why a lot of the time in business, when people are first starting out, you'll see them, completely change who they are to try to fit some certain mold, because they think that's where success lies. And yet, if you know them, that deep down, that very likely feels like misery. It doesn't feel good. So I always come up on my feed on Instagram, for example, with no makeup on. And I know that you guys don't really care. And neither do I. That's just who I am. Honestly, I'm not the kind of girl who always has the perfect prim manicure, because I garden and I love to have my hands in the dirt. And I don't do tanning beds, and I used to, but I don't do them anymore. When I was 18, I used to go in the tanning bed the odd time. I don't do fake lashes. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those things. It's just not who I am in this season of my life. But there are people who think, oh my gosh, I don't want to look unprofessional. I need to go put makeup on if I want to go on my feed and talk. I need to look like the expert. I need to look like the authority figure. That's what people want. I need to go get the $800 Chanel bag so people perceive me as successful, even though I have no money in my bank account and I'm just struggling to get by. I need to go buy the fancy outfit to do my brand photos and look well off, even though on most days I actually choose to wear Walmart sneakers regardless of what's in my bank account. That's just what I like to buy. It's what I prefer. I don't care how much money is in my bank account. I enjoy going to thrift stores. I enjoy it. So this is a lie. It is not true alignment. It is just what people think is going to draw them closer to this highly coveted idea of success in their mind, and they will chase it, and then they will be slapped by their ego, just like, wha-bam, oops, I was going in the wrong direction. Because that's not what your audience wants from you. People don't really care about those things. They want your true, authentic, and perhaps sometimes messy self. It doesn't mean you always have to be a mess and talk about all the bad, troubling stuff nonstop. And, it's just like this never ending, raw and real version of your life on social media. That's not what I'm getting at here. Just because I don't wear a full face of makeup on Instagram every single time I go live does not mean that I'm always a mess and I'm always unhappy and I'm always troubled. It just means that's not who I am. And I'm showing up in my true authenticity, fully trusting that the right people will meet me there and say, oh my gosh, that's her. That's her. That's the person that I've been looking for. And if they're not my people, they'll unfollow me or they'll fall away. And by the way, that is also a good thing, because what they're doing is they're making space for the right people to find me. You don't just want any customer as a coach or a mentor. There are people you want to work with that you can serve. People that oh, you know what? I just can't wait to get out of bed and work with this person. And there are also people out there that in your heart are not meant for your message or your unique way of serving. And I want you to know that that is totally normal. That is totally okay. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the more you come home to yourself, not your prim and perfect and polished proper self, but your true, authentic, beautiful, raw self. Who are you at your core? And show up from that place and build your business from that place and allow yourself to be seen in that place. The more your soul clients can actually hear you beyond the constant, incessant scroll. This truth of yours is what pulls you up out of the fog of people that are online. It's a fog. It's just a scroll, constant dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit. This is what makes people see you in there. They can't see you if you're not being you. And I want to reiterate, I want to be clear that this is not about whether or not you choose to wear makeup or whatever. This is about something so much deeper. Maybe you love makeup and that's your jam and you play with makeup all the time and you just want to go in your stories and your lives and show all the different looks that you're doing because that's what's fun for you and that's who you actually are. Then that is perfect. Go do that. Enjoy every minute of it. Let people see you in your radiance if that's what you love. What I'm saying is it's not about being like a person who always wears makeup because that's what you deem as success or you think that's what defines success. I got to look like an authority figure. Nobody wants the authority figure version of you. They want a person who is going to understand them, a person they can be vulnerable with and say, hey, you know what? I want to transform. I want to change in this area that I know you help people with. Can you help me? Because when you showed up and you showed who you are, I got the inkling that perhaps that's you. This isn't about being like someone like me who comes online who hardly ever has makeup on in her stories in her lives because that's who I am. Don't do it because you think that's what's creating some level of success for me. In fact, if we all have a unique idea of what success is, you can't even look at what others are doing and try to mimic that because their starting point is different than your starting point. Their GPS starting point and their GPS endpoint are completely different than yours. Their vision, their idea of success is different than your ideas of success. So how could doing what they're doing and being who they're being solve a damn thing for you? How is that possibly going to speed up your progress? You're a leader, not a follower. You're a creator, not a consumer in this realm, right? This is about something so much more potent than mimicry of anyone or anything outside of your perfect and divine essence.
Today, I'm answering a question that I get asked in my inbox at least a few times a week, which is, where did I go to school and what did I think about it? I became a registered holistic nutrition practitioner through Nutri School of Holistic Nutrition, and I actually did my entire program online from home with a full-time job and a new baby. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I love that it was all delivered online and that I could do it at my own pace because I actually managed to complete my entire 2-year program in about 13 months. They also have a 1-year holistic nutrition and health coach certification, but I decided to go for the 2-year advanced diploma in holistic nutrition, and I loved every bit of it. And with me being a military spouse at the time, it was also really important that the programs be internationally recognized so that I could use my certification from anywhere in the world. So if you require the ability to study at your own pace in your own time, head over to michellemcisaac.com/Nutrophoria to learn all about Nutrophoria's course and program offerings.
It's about a continual journey of coming back home to who you really are and shining from that place and letting your people actually view that version of you. It doesn't mean you have to share every single aspect of who you are. You don't have to share everything. You get to decide what you share. But what I'm saying is this feels like taking off the mask and all of your filters. I mean, think about Instagram filters. Instagram filters or TikTok filters or whatever, any platform. They change your whole face. Some of them look insanely real. And some of them look nice. You know, they can give you a facelift or a face full of makeup and clear skin and long lashes without you ever having to leave your couch. But guess what? When you stop hitting record, you can't take the filter with you. You can't sustain it. It's not a sustainable reality. It might work for a little while, but it's not actually who you are. I would almost equate this to like going on a date with someone who's only ever seen photos of you that have a filter on, and them being like, holy crap, you're nothing like who I thought you were. It's like proverbially catfishing your community as a business owner. And then when you attract misaligned people into your world, wondering why you hate your work, and you keep attracting the wrong people and the wrong clients and the wrong community, and it doesn't feel good anymore. This is about owning your shit and owning the beautiful reasons that you're actually doing this thing. Like, why are you even here? What are the inspiring, motivating parts of your story that actually freaking matter to you? And it's also about recognizing that the shadows that come up in that process are not only coming up for a reason too, but they're actually really freaking important components of your development as a leader. You do not get to skip feeling like shit sometimes. I'm sorry, I wish you could, but this is about owning the truest version of you that is running this ship. This is your life's work after all. Nobody else's. It's not mine. So you can't try to be me in order to succeed at your life's work. You need to accept you. You cannot spiritually bypass yourself into succeeding in business. So your perception of what equals success, it might be, for example, all the things that you see other successful, quote, right, their version of success, might be all the things that you see other successful people doing or being, wearing makeup, not wearing makeup, using sales funnels, using TikTok, using business cards, speaking a certain way that isn't your unique voice, etc., 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 creating a certain type of offer. But where your version of success actually lives, this place where suddenly you can collapse time and things start to move, is more so inside of the actual embodiment of your true, genuine, but also inevitably flawed and human self. And I can hear you guys now. But Michelle, what if I'm too broken? What if I have too much uncertainty and doubt? What if I have too much anxiety? What if I have too many struggles? Now, there is a particular belief that is prevalent in the world of online business and self-leadership. It is a reason that a lot of people with big dreams don't actually go and do the thing they want to do. It's also a reason that a lot of people end up quitting the thing that they want to do. They decide to do it and then they back out and then they stall. And all the lie that they're believing is that you can't have shadows and also succeed at business. I'm too broken. I'm too hurt. I'm too anxious. I'm too stressed. I have too many problems. I have too many blocks because of my past and my history and my childhood. It's not available to me. I'm too anxious. And a mentor once told me something that has never left my psyche and my mind, and it is that you can still be afraid and also lead as a powerful person. You can do both. You can have both at the same time. You can hold both. I'm not saying, well, just work through your pain. That's not what I'm getting at here. What I'm saying is you can hold emotions that do not feel good. Like the emotion of fear, for example, which is inevitable in business. Like you're going to be worried about stuff. You're going to be afraid of stuff. You can hold emotions that do not feel good and fully experience them. Because we don't want to just shove it down and say, stay happy, good vibes. Because that's not where success lies either. Trust me. This is a lie. If somebody says that, run. They're lying. Like a lot of people will tell you that. And tell you like, oh my gosh, she's just so negative all the time. And it's like, so obviously she can't do this. No, I'm sorry. No. We are human beings. We were born here on this planet to have a human experience and to experience a vast spectrum of human emotions that are available to all of us on purpose. From the highest of highs, the most beautiful, like bliss, awe feelings to the lowest of lows. And not all of the emotions that we can and will feel good. Some of them feel awful. Some of them change our beliefs and shatter paradigms and teach us things, and it's all completely normal. It's normal. It doesn't mean anything about your ability to lead in your business. But also, when you know that, you can approach the seasons that don't feel so good differently. Because you're aware that if it doesn't mean that you're failing if you don't always feel good. It doesn't mean that you can't keep growing or keep learning new things and evolving and transforming. For example, well, Michelle, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and I'm experiencing this feeling like this might not work, so I guess this means that I can't do this. Nope. Lies. You can hold that feeling of fear and still lead in a powerful way while honoring fully the realness of what is coming up for you, because it's real. The emotion that you feel is real. There is a risk that you are feeling in your body. And if someone tries to tell you that you can only succeed smothered in good vibes, please just thank them and then turn around and run in the other direction. The only time that feeling a not so great feeling emotion means something about our ability to lead is when we are convinced that it does. And we make decisions from that place. You don't have to make decisions from that place. You can wait. You can allow yourself to feel what you need to feel and then wait and make big decisions in your business once you've had time to honor and hold what's coming up for you, because it's real and you deserve that. You're worthy of that. If you're coming back home to yourself, it has to be a home. And it's not going to be a home if you don't allow yourself to feel what you actually feel. So how freeing is it for you, if you're an entrepreneur, to have this realization that your fear on what it means to build a business and lead yourself and be responsible for your own income, or, be responsible for other people's income, whatever, it means very little about your ability. Your anxiousness, your doubt, your insecurities, your worry that people are going to view you as salesy, whatever it is, it means nothing about your ability. Just because you're scared you're scared that someone's going to view your post as being salesy doesn't mean anything about your ability to sell in the end, unless you make it mean something. There's certainly something that's asking to be felt and understood and healed there. But, if you feel like every time you put a piece of content out there, nobody likes it, that doesn't mean that you should stop growing and evolving in your content development process and finding what the discomfort means and looking at it, exploring it, honoring it. or that what you feel about what's not possible for you is even true. There are so many ways you can look at this, and it all comes back to your identity as the leader, right? You're the one steering this ship. The way that you view yourself as you lead, and the way that you honor yourself as you lead, because you're the one leading and you deserve that. You're worthy of that. And by the way, giving yourself permission to fully feel the not so good feeling emotions when they come up also means giving yourself permission to fully feel the good, positive feeling emotions. I don't want to say good emotions and bad ones because I feel like they all serve us in some way, even if they don't feel good. So I would say giving yourself permission to fully feel the positive feeling emotions and experiences that come up as a result of you holding the not so good feeling emotions without letting it mean that you have to quit or that you're incapable of succeeding or that your dream is too big and you can't keep moving toward it. Like, you get to feel everything. You get to fully experience when you move through the not so good feeling emotions. You get to be there for the ones that feel really good. The ones where you go, holy crap, I did it. I can't believe I freaking did it. You get to experience those emotions too, fully. Some people don't let themselves feel those emotions either, but that I could do a whole other podcast episode on. So I want to give an example of this to drive this idea home. And the point that I want to make with this is that your own awareness and the awareness that you bring to what you actually truly feel and who you really, really are at your core is the greatest gift that you can hold and give to yourself as a leader. Your own awareness of what's actually coming up for you in any given moment, right? Not putting it aside or shoving it out of sight because good vibes only, but to say, for example, and this is such a powerful statement. So like, I would encourage you to remember this, like write it down, keep it somewhere in a notebook. I'm noticing that I'm feeling blank, right? I'm noticing that I'm feeling really frustrated with my content creation game because the content I'm putting out doesn't really feel like me anymore. Or I'm noticing that I'm feeling like I just don't align with this niche anymore. This isn't working for me. Because when you notice that you're feeling it, what you're doing is you're kind of like picking yourself up out of the emotion just for a second and putting yourself aside and actually looking at it. Because usually all we do is we go, oh, that doesn't feel good. This is wrong. Something's wrong. This isn't meant to be this way. Spark out and I quit. It's not going to work. I'm struggling. This is a struggle. Or it's like, why does this always have to be hard? It's hard because there's a part of you that's begging to be seen and you're not letting yourself be seen or heard or understood. And it feels really shitty. That could be one reason. But if you are saying, I'm noticing that I'm feeling like I don't align with my niche anymore, this isn't working, like a part of you could potentially go, well, I guess this means that I can't do this and I should just go get a regular 9 to 5. But is that ultimately true? I would say that's not it. A lot of the time what happens is your soul is seeking whatever the next evolution is, whatever the next time shift, the next transition is for you into your next thing. There's a part of you that is seeking to be born. And there's a part of you that's going to die in that process, if that makes sense. It's not a literal death that I'm talking about here, in case you haven't figured that out. And tempo is sort of like an exploration into what people do who collapse time, who understand this idea of compounding and collapsing time. Like, what are they doing? What are these people doing? This little subsection of people who have these big, crazy evolutions in their business where they're working their butts off and they're trying to figure it out and they're making the same amount of money all the time. It's up and down. And all of a sudden they're just like, I just had a 10K day. What just happened? I just made 20K in a day or in a month. I just hit a 5-figure month for the last 3 months in a row, and I've never even hit a 4-figure month before this. What is going on? That's collapsing time. But collapsing time doesn't even have to be a monetary evolution either, although we often use money as a benchmark to success. It's not the only one. It's one thing that we can look at, one benchmark. It can be about how you're showing up differently. It can be around the kinds of clients you're attracting. It can be how you're moving about your business, how you're speaking to your community and your clients. It can be about your content game. Like, something is changing and all of a sudden you're attracting the most aligned people into your world. What are they doing differently? How are these people showing up differently? How are they viewing things differently? Their work and themselves, right? I almost said their selves. Because perspective is a huge piece of this puzzle. You can know all of the strategy in the world. You can understand funnels and email marketing and content marketing and social media, and you can have the best TikTok game in the world. But if your mindset is in the crapper, it's not going to matter. You can have all the strategy in the world, but if you don't think you're worthy and you're embarrassed every time you put a post out and you're like, I don't know what these people are going to think of me, like, who am I to do this? There's something there that's asking to be healed still. And a lot of the time, these not so good feeling emotions that are coming up are actually the most valuable and precious thing. And they're there to teach you something that's going to make the evolution occur. It's like the catalyst that's going to help it happen. And I want to be clear that I'm not saying you need to feel like shit in order to evolve. But what I'm saying is that your normal, valid human emotions that exist all along the spectrum, they feel good, they don't feel good, whatever. Your valid, normal human emotions do not need to be the deciding factor upon whether you can evolve. But if you do feel them, they may be there as a teacher, as a catalyst. Some people call it the pain teacher. Some people call it a healing opportunity. A catalyst that helps you move into what you're actually seeking faster. Something changed fast. They evolved in some sort of big, noticeable way fast. Like, what happened? I've had probably a handful, I would say 4, 5 entrepreneurs at this point who go through Tempo. They come into it with a clear intention. Here's what I'm going to do when I get in here. They have a plan. They have a goal in mind when they get there. And within 2 weeks, that plan is in the garbage. And they've had this paradigm shift. They've completely changed their niche. Like I'm saying, there are people who have done this program who have not even been in the same world of what kind of business they're running by the time they finish Tempo. Like 2 weeks in, they know that something felt wrong for a long time. And that's why they joined Tempo, but they couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden, they have permission to look at what doesn't feel good. They're given permission to just give a small shred of awareness to what doesn't feel good and approach how to view what feels uncomfortable or, quote, wrong. And then all of a sudden it's like, bloop, they've moved into an entirely different, far more aligned timeline completely. And it doesn't mean that the new timeline isn't going to have pain too and fear and uncertainty. That's going to happen. But I have had people go through Tempo where in the second week, they realize they're not in the right place at all. They take another program at the same time to become certified in some other thing. And by the end of Tempo, they're having 2 graduations. They're having their celebration call in Tempo. And they're having a different one. They're kicking off a completely different, far more aligned, expansive business. And they feel good. And they're excited. And that energy is felt by their audience. And that absolutely reflects in their offerings and in their bottom line. This is why we need to stop telling people that they need to just be more positive if they want to succeed. Like we're encouraging them to miss opportunities. The things that I have seen happen in this container, you guys. And again, self-leadership is a process of constantly coming back home to yourself. Your emotions are you talking to you about you. So when you feel them, I would encourage you to stop making it mean something about your potentiality in this world and instead honor and hold space for what is. The good, the bad, the ugly, however you want to perceive it. Honor that. And then when you feel ready, lean in. You know, these people go from being frustrated and lost to feeling out of alignment and confused, and then all of a sudden finding themselves in this completely different body of work that actually matters to them. And it's because they stopped ignoring the cues that their body was giving them and the feelings of, I don't feel good, something's wrong here, something's begging to be healed, something's begging to be explored. But we're so conditioned to believe that negative emotion is going to hold us back. It's going to, quote, stop our manifestation. Lies, lies, lies. But actually, if we sit with these shadows, we realize that very quickly that they're here to teach us something. And I've seen people have the most amazing evolutions. And not only that, but they're so much more aligned with whatever their version of success is because they're moving. They're evolving into more of themselves. They're more at home with where they are, with who they're being, with what they're doing, with how they're showing up, how they're moving about this world. So this is about fully honoring yourself, watching how that ripple effect translates into your world. You know, your joy is your truth, but your sadness is also your truth. You can hold both and still lead powerfully. You can notice, respect, and honor what is authentically showing up for you in your life, and it will help you shift into the very place that your soul is seeking to go that feels so far away. And the result is radical expansion and consistent evolution. Growth, compounded on growth, compounded on growth, compounded on celebration, on celebration, on celebration. So I want to go back to my original unconventional opinion about collapsing time in business, which is that to collapse time and to expand into the kind of places you've never even thought were possible in your business, you're going to need to die first. Likely more than once, like a lot of different times in a lot of different ways. These versions of you are going to die. And I want to pull all of these thoughts together and just tie it into a perfect little bow so that you always remember this conversation when things feel uncomfortable along your journey, because they will sometimes. And if any coach tells you they won't, they're lying. What do I mean by death? Well, have you ever heard the phrase, your new life is going to cost you your old one? I want you to consider this for a moment. Consider the version of you who is living inside of your unique version of success right now. Let's pretend they're alive right now. This version of you already exists somewhere in the world, okay? Think back to how you uniquely defined success earlier in this podcast. And if you haven't done this yet, I would really encourage you to take some time when you're done listening to this episode and see if you can fill one blank page with everything you need to know about this version of you. Who is she? Like, define your version of success. What does her typical day look like? What does it feel like when she swipes her bank card at the grocery store? How does she make her buying decisions? What does she do for fun? What does her work schedule look like? Where does she live? Etc., etc. Okay, let this be a stream of thought. Who are you when you're living in your embodied version of what you deem as success in your mind? Okay, think about this version of you, and instead of imagining that she exists somewhere way in the future and maybe one day you'll hopefully get there, but it feels so far away, I want you to pretend she already exists. Maybe she lives in the house next door to you. Like if you walked outside and you went to your neighbor's house, even if you're like, well, my version of success lives in Costa Rica. Okay, we'll pretend the house is in Costa Rica, okay? For the sake of the example, okay? As they say, do it for the plot. Okay, let's pretend for the plot that your Costa Rican house next door is where this version of you lives. Okay? Like if you walked outside and you went to your neighbor's house and you opened that door, you would see a glimpse of this reality that you so deeply desire in your heart being played out by you. Okay, dream with me for a moment here. And in order to become her now, who you are today, in one way or another, needs to die. This identity needs to die. Right? I'm not talking about a literal go put me in the grave kind of death here. I'm not getting cryptic. I'm talking about who you are, your human experience. I'm talking about your willingness to look at what isn't working. I'm talking about your willingness to honor your pain and discomfort because you're doing something you've never done before. And despite what anyone tells you, this shit can be freaking hard sometimes, and that is okay. That is normal. It does not mean anything about your ability to evolve. And as you grow as a leader, I want you to imagine that you're at the top of this big gigantic slide, and this version of you is at the bottom. Okay? And I want you to imagine that you're going down this big slide, but it's shaped almost like a cone or like a spiral that goes around and around and around. It gets tighter and tighter around the circle every time you go around it. Okay? Almost as though it's shaped like a cone. Okay? And there are all sorts of emotions along the slide that are felt each time you make your way around the spiral. In the beginning, you might feel you're going down the slide and then all of a sudden, boop, you stop and you feel a lot of fear. The fear that your family and friends are going to view you some kind of way because you're posting about your business on social media. And that is terrifying. Like, what are they going to think? You mean I have to post stuff on Facebook and people are going to see it and they're going to know I have a business, but also I need that people to know that I have a business in order for them to be able to buy from me? Like, you might feel a lot of fear around that. And eventually, you're going to work through that fear and you're going to start showing up and you're going to honor the fear. You're going to recognize it. You're going to notice it. I'm noticing that I'm feeling fear around this. And you're going to start to recognize that using courage in your business is not, courage is not the absence of fear. I'm not going to take away your fear. This call is not called how to get rid of your fear in business and make you, completely confident in a second. This is, realizing that courage is actually the willingness to show up while holding the fear. And that if you don't feel confident in your business yet, it makes sense to tap into courage first because you don't have the confidence yet. But the more that you do this, the easier it becomes to tap into confidence. But you have to tap into courage first because you're scared. And that's okay. So then you're going down this big slide, okay? And you've gained the exact download that you need to go through that moment of discomfort and to put your first couple of social media posts out there. And suddenly you're getting this response and you're feeling better about it. And you've downloaded almost like a code into your psyche about how to handle this kind of challenge. And that's great. So the old you doesn't exist anymore. You have a new code. The fear that you had actually helped you in that process because you were willing to look at it. It's the reason that you got through it. You get through that feeling of fear at the start of your journey, and suddenly you're coasting along this slide again. You're getting closer and closer to this version of you, and you've gained some new clients, and you're feeling good, and you've made some money, and you're starting to think, oh my gosh, maybe I can really do this thing. And then wham! You've made it around the spiral again, and there's fear again. But this time it looks a little bit different. This time it's around another obstacle. Maybe you've had a client sign up for your program, but then they asked for a refund and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never dealt with a refund before. I don't want to be mean, but I was really excited about this person signing up and I have no refund policy. On my website, I have this no refund policy, but you feel like you should just cave and give them their money back, but you also don't want to feel like a pushover. And now you're worried about your boundaries and like, is this how it's always going to feel in business, this discomfort that I feel? And you hate it, and it would just be so much easier to work a 9-to-5 and not ever have to worry about these kinds of things. See the overthinking? See how it just like builds up and then all of a sudden I'm just back in fear again. It's not quite the same as the last spiral, but it's still fear. And in order to alchemize that fear and keep moving, you still need to look at it. You still need to meet it. You need to honor the trueness of what you really feel and say, I'm noticing that I'm feeling fear. And because you're on the next rung of the spiral, though, you might even think, wow, okay, so this fear, it's a little bit different than the fear I felt before. It's about a different thing and I'm a different person now. So does this new level version of me have a new way of approaching this challenge? Because the old you, in alchemizing the pain from the first time you felt fear, she died. And you have a new download that you can work with. You downloaded a whole new version of you. The fear didn't leave. I can't take it away. I'm your coach. I can't take your fear away though. Sorry. I can teach you about it. I can help you view it differently. I can't take the fear away. It just looks different now. It's going to look different in the beginning when you're struggling with putting that first social media post out there or doing your first live or actually promoting your offer for the first time than it's going to look when you're a whole, multi-million dollar corporation and you're responsible for 20 employees and the economy's changing and you want to make sure that you don't lose any employees. But guess what? It's still fear. The fear is still going to exist. It's still going to come up with every loop around the spiral path, but it's going to be for different reasons. It's going to look a little bit different, but boom, it's fear again. And the more you honor and hold space for all of the emotions that come up along this spiral, which you're going to see repeating patterns of the same kind of emotions, the more you honor and hold space for all the emotions that come up with a curious and I would say inquisitive mind, the more that you allow fear to exist that is real, that you feel anyway, doubt, insecurity, indecision, perfectionism, etc., the more you allow that to actually be alchemized and teach you what it needs to teach you so you can carry on your trip, your journey around the spiral path, the faster timelines collapse. And each time you have a new download, you have a new code downloaded into your mind of how to approach these things, the old version of you dies because you've been reborn into an entirely new person. It doesn't mean you're a constant problem that needs solving. In fact, I would wager that it means the exact opposite. It means that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're not broken because you feel. You don't need fixing. You are the special sauce in this equation. You are worthy. You do have what you need. And the more that you remain open for all that comes as you make your way around and around this spiral path, the faster you move toward it. Because the cycles get tighter and tighter, and then suddenly you find yourself coasting. And it becomes a little bit fun. Welcome to the art of embodied leadership and collapsing time. So friends, I hope that this episode served you along your journey. And if it did, it would mean the world to me if you shared it on your Instagram stories and tagged me at _Michelle McIsaac, that's MCISAAC, so I can hear your thoughts. Or you could share it with a friend who's in business that could use this kind of encouragement. And in the meantime, if you're not yet in my brand new private Facebook community, the GROWradio Listeners Lounge, I invite you to find us over there. Let us know your biggest takeaways on this very potent episode, and you will absolutely find your people there. And by the way, I'm planning to host more free Coaching Friday sessions in there, which is where I basically go live and you can submit your questions and I mentor you in real time right in the group. It's going to be so much fun. I'll probably turn some of them into podcast episodes, so maybe one day you can even be on GROWradio with me. And of course, if this message really resonated with you, we are just days away from the kickoff call for Tempo, the Art of Speeding Up. We're starting on April 10th, and let me tell you something. This is one experience that you do not want to miss. So head over to Michelle McIsaac, again, that's MICHELLE MCISAAC.com/tempo to check out all the details, or send me a message directly on Instagram. I actually send voice messages over there, and I would love to chat with you. That's at _Michelle McIsaac if you would love to discuss this further. So I want to leave you with a quote that just totally hit different for me when I heard it, and I hope it lands for you too today. And it is from Osho, and it says, "Courage is a love affair with the unknown." All right, I love you so much, and I will see you again next week for another episode of GROWradio. Bye, guys.